Welcome back, everybody, to the Daily Rumble. I have a special guest all the way from Dubai right now, Luke Franklin, a guy that is making a storm out there on social media with a bunch of Islamic content, and people are fascinated to see what life is like over in Dubai. So we're going to get into what it's like to be from a Western country and go to a Middle Eastern country like the UAE. Luke, thank you so much for taking the time today to be on the Daily Rumble. Truly appreciate you. How you doing, my man?
I'm very good, mate. How are you?
I'm better than I deserve, that is for sure. I wanted to just jump right in and kind of get to know you a little bit better. For people who don't know you, if they haven't seen you on social media yet, or if they have seen you and they don't know your backstory, where are you from and how did you end up in a place like Dubai?
So, born and raised in the UK, not done much traveling or exploring of the world. Had a bit of a crazy upbringing, drink, drugs, prison, all that sort of stuff. Pretty normal for lads in the UK, to be honest, to grow up in rough areas. And then I met my wife, had a couple of kids, and I just thought there was more to it than the UK. I think with governments that have been in power for the last couple of decades and just seeing it decline so much, I was sort of looking for a way out. My wife wasn't too keen on it at first, relocating the kids to another country. And then a lot of stuff started kicking off, a lot of riots and stuff happening in the UK. And one of the migrant hotels was right near our house. And there was one of the main ones where there was a lot of riots, a lot of police, a lot of mayhem going on. She was just like, you know what, get us out of here. So I hadn't really thought about the UAE. I was thinking more Europe. I just wanted somewhere sunny, if I'm honest. But then I just thought, you know what, it's no different. It's still got the drink and drug culture. It's still got the crime and the rubbish and the governments that aren't working for the people. And one of my friends bought a investment property in Dubai, and was, why don't you move to Dubai? And I was like, I don't think I can afford to live there. Because you just see Lambos and influencers and stuff. You don't really like someone that's not very well traveled. You don't really know much more about it. I thought you had to be a multi-millionaire to live here, but there's another emirate. There's 7 emirates, but one of them's called Ajman, and it's the smallest emirate. It's located sort of in between everywhere. It's right bang in the middle of the country, and it's very, very cheap. Still very Middle Eastern. There is minimal white people here, minimal Western people here, and we thought, you know what, let's book a little holiday. We're going to have a look at schools and villas and costs and stuff. We came here for 10 days and absolutely fell in love with it. And 4 months later, we'd sold our cars, TVs, sofas, and just come over here. I had no friends, no job. I think I just landed here with a few suitcases, my wife, kids, and my dog, and was like, right, let's try and make it work. And alhamdulillah, we're still here, mate. We're still ticking away and sort of, still trying to build futures, still worry a little bit. But yeah, I mean, things are working out. So it's good.
So you converted to Islam. Did you do that before or after moving to the UAE?
I've been here 18 months. I reverted a week ago tomorrow. So I've been a Muslim 6 days, bro.
Wow. See, that I didn't even know that. I followed your page. I thought you had been a Muslim for longer. So,
So how it come
alhamdulillah.
about, basically, when I moved here, obviously I was I've never been far right. I've never been racist or anti any religion or personal colour. But I'm a right winger, and I still am. I still am a right winger. I'm just not far right. And when I moved here, obviously with the propaganda in the West, it was a big shock for me to see the difference in what I've been taught to what I am seeing in regards to Muslims. Now, I never judged Muslims on a personal scale. I had Muslim friends, and they're legends. I love them, and I'm still very good friends with them now, even though I don't live in the country. And I didn't have the right idea of Islam. A lot of it I thought was maybe quite cult-like. It was very much like fight everybody but Muslims. I never thought they were bad people or it was a bad religion. I just didn't think it was a good religion. And then when I came here, because I live in Ajman and not Dubai, I didn't have any Western friends. All my friends here are Emirati locals, all Muslim. And they are the nicest people I've ever met. And in my head, and if I was sat with them and I'd ask them a question about this, why are you guys so nice? They'd give us gifts, they'd do this, they'd say anything you need, you do this. If your children need looking after, drop them round or anything else. And every time they told me something nice, they were like, it's because our religion teaches this, it's because the Quran says this, it's because the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said this. And I was like, hang on a minute, someone here is lying. It's either you're sat in front of me telling me a lie or the Western media is lying. Somebody is, and I want to know who. But also what I want to know is if this religion is making you such a good man, and such good people. I'm a dad and a husband. I aim to be a good man and a good person. I was like, so I want a slice of that. If this is making you this good, I want to be this good. So I started looking into Islam a little bit more, just on the outskirts, just sort of finding things that I've heard and sort of trying to see if it was true. And because I started finding out that it was the Western media that was lying, I was like, well, I'm not having this. I don't like injustice. I don't like bullies. I don't like this sort of stuff. And I'd do it for any religion if it was happening. And any color of person or any race of people or any nationality, I'd do the same. So because I started then voicing the opinion I had online and telling people Islam isn't what you think it is, you are being lied to, not just to protect Muslims, but also to open the eyes of my own white British people. Because you're being mugged off, you're being scammed, you're being lied to, and you're being fed an enemy while the real enemy have their wicked ways with your tax money, with your children, with your morals. So I was like, one, I want to protect Muslims because they don't deserve this. Two, I want to open the eyes of my own people before it's too late. So because I started voicing my opinion online, the far right clowns just have full on hate. Like I clashed with the left more than I did the right, being a right winger. The far left, you know, the real, the furries and the I can be whatever I want to be. I look like I'm going to wear a dog's tail and be all that sort of stuff. I clashed with them because the far right and the far left, they're no different. They're just extremists. Same as extreme religion, same as extreme anything. They're the same. And I dislike anything extreme. So I started for the first time clashing with the far right. And I've never met such a hateful, ignorant, uneducated group of people in my whole life. But what they did is they were telling me things about Islam, about the bad stuff and why did this happen and why did that happen. And to counteract this, I had to do research. I'm obviously surrounded by Muslims. Some of them are very high level, of high knowledge. So I'd speak to them, I'd do a bit of Googling, I'd do a bit of YouTube, I'd speak to people online. And it made me start learning so much about this religion. And I was like, and at this point, I am 100% atheist. Like you probably couldn't find anyone more atheist than me. And I started thinking, hang on a minute, they might be onto something here. 2 billion people might just know something that I don't. And the more I read, the more things started happening. The more the context was given to me, the more understanding I had. And I've got goosebumps now, bro, because 2 months ago, I didn't believe in God, let alone angels, let alone messengers, let alone miracles. So I started then not just researching it to combat the lies. I then started researching it for my own set for myself. And I have some really, really nice friends here, very understanding. And I'd question everything. And I'd started asking loads of questions. And the real turning point for me was one of my friends sent me, I don't know if you know the Real Loon. Have you heard of him? He's an American rapper. Yeah, he's an American rapper. He was really famous in America, and he lives not too far from me, funnily enough. He lives over in Najman now, and he's a revert. And someone sent me a video of him. I didn't know who he was, even though I'm into American rap. I live in Ajman as well, which is tiny. I didn't know that he lived there. Someone sent me a video of saying, just to make dua, don't worry about the words. And someone said, just do this. And I was like, what's dua? He's like, just speak to God. And I was like, okay. So I walk my dog quite late because it's hot in the day here. I walk my dog about 1 a.m. and I was just walking and I just thought, I'll give it a go. And I did. And I just had some overwhelming feelings. Yeah, it is mad. The power of it all was something I've never experienced before. And then I was like, wow. So then I started thinking, well, maybe God is real. And then I was speaking to a Christian friend because I wasn't just tunnel vision on Islam. I was tunnel vision on religion. I wanted to find what was right for me. And I didn't want to sort of lock myself off into a corner because I was in a Muslim country. So I spoke to a Christian friend of mine who is a little bit anti-Islam, actually. And I said to him, because God for me was Zeus with a trident on a cloud. That's the image I had in my head. And I knew that wasn't right. So I was really battling to get this image out of my head. So I spoke to my friend and he said to me, I said, do you actually believe there is a creator? He's like 100%. And I was like, okay. I was like, could you tell me how you believe that? And he's like, let me try and put it in simple terms for you. He said, that will never comprehend what skin is, what a mind is, what a soul is, what organs are, what breathing is, what a relationship is. It might have the information of that, I said some of it might not. Some of it might just think that AI just is. It wasn't built by anyone. Some of it might know that it was built by something called a human, but it will never comprehend what we are. And that was when the penny dropped. For me, that was like, wow, this is so true. And it actually got the image of Zeus out of my head at the same time. To think, why am I even trying to comprehend what God looks like? Or what it is? I never will know. I'm just a mere human being. I'll never know what this master of creation is, and it'll just never be a thing. Stop trying to work it out. Stop trying to think what he looks like and how he works, because you'll never know. You'll just never ever know exactly what all this is. So that's what that was then. Then I went from atheist to agnostic. I went from being completely non-religious, no creator, to being a believer in God, but I didn't know which religion. And then I started thinking, right, okay, so let's try and narrow it down. Judaism for me, it's very hard to become a Jew. I'm not too knowledgeable on their beliefs. All I knew was that your mum has to be a Jew to be born a Jew, and it's very difficult to become a Jew. Now, from what I think of God, I don't think he'd want everybody to be his. So I'm like, why would he make it so difficult? Now, it's not easy being a Muslim. That's something else. I find Christianity too easy to be religious. You should be easy to get into the religion, but the religion should challenge you as a person.
Yeah.
So that was crossed off for Judaism for me. Then I looked into the Trinity and Jesus being God. And again, I think it's doing God a disservice by saying that he was ever a human. And it just didn't sit. There was too much there for me that jumped out and was like, actually, yeah, I don't believe in this. And not knocking either religions. If that's your belief and it makes you a better person, then I am all for it. So it left me with Islam. So I started looking into the Prophet Muhammad a little bit. I started looking into the Quran and just YouTubing stuff and talking to friends here of good things to listen to. And then I just thought, there's a man from 1,400 years ago that cannot read or write. And he has produced by far the most incredible piece of literature that has ever existed. That couldn't have been him.
Yeah.
It had to have been God. And at that point, I was like, right, I think I'm a Muslim. But I didn't. This was a few weeks before I took my Shahada. And then it got to the point where I was like, right, okay, I'm talking to God a lot right now, every night. Every night, I'm either asking for things, asking him to help people, not materialistic stuff. I laid that down first. I think as an atheist, you think when someone says ask God for stuff, you think, well, I'd like a new car or something. This is the first thing that comes to your head. But I started actually asking to make me more knowledgeable. Show me the truth. I don't need you to appear in front of me. I don't need you to, I will be faithful. I will believe. I don't need pure evidence, but what I do need is just a little bit of guidance and a little bit of help and a little bit of knowledge, because my own brain and is fighting this. My body and my mind are trying to fight this. Let me beat it, because I want to beat this. I believe in you. I believe Islam is the truth. I just need that push. And from that day, man, I don't know. I was driving my car one day, bro, and I thought I was going to burst with like this pure buzz. Like I mentioned earlier, I've done many substances in my time. Nothing came close to this overwhelming. I thought I was going mad. I didn't know what was going on. I remember to this day, I was driving, where I was driving and what I was going to do, and I was just like, this is insane. Like, this is amazing. And this sort of thing kept happening to me. Walking my dog, I felt like I had this something behind me of just pureness, pure energy and light. Like the feelings, I was just like, "Oh, what?" And I could have screamed, like, if I wasn't walking on my own and would have looked like an absolute lunatic, I'd have been like, what do you know what I mean? It was just mad, bro. And I was like, oh my God, like, are you taking your meds this morning, bro? It was incredible. So I was like, you know what? Right. I think I'm ready. I know enough to believe that this is the truth. I have not dove into the Quran deep enough. But from the things that I do know, and like I say, the level of literature that couldn't have been done by a man that couldn't read or write. So I thought to myself, right, what do you need to do now to take your Shahada? What is it? Because you've been on this journey for a few weeks, maybe a few months now, and what is going to be the point for you? And I thought, right, I need to start learning to pray, even if it's just the movements. I want to be able to worship God. If I'm going to be part of his religion and believe in him, I want to be able to worship him just out of respect and gratitude. And the other thing was, I need to start studying the Quran, because a few weeks before this, I have never read a religious book in my life. I've been to church for the nativity. That's it. Like, I've never been religious at all. My parents never spoke about it. So I didn't even know what the Bible would have looked like if I opened it. So I opened the Quran a few weeks before this, thinking, right, I'm going to learn the religion inside out. I'm going to know everything before I take my shahada. Well, I opened the Quran and it just made no sense. I thought it was going to be a storybook of the creation of the universe, then Adam, and then work its way through the prophets and be like just someone talking like a storybook. And I opened it and I've read about 3 pages of it, which I've now learned is way too much to read in one time anyway. If you don't understand it, you should do little segments. And I was like, this makes absolutely no sense. What are these people on about thinking that it just doesn't say anything to me. But because I was so adamant that this was real, I thought, you know what? Just put the Quran away. Don't worry about that for now. And just go out and do some more looking. So I told a few friends about how frustrated I was. I was really disheartened. And I was actually really scared because a lot of Muslims have said to me while I was fighting the propaganda, you'll never change everyone's mind. God guides who he wills. And I
Yeah.
thought, maybe he just hates me. Maybe he doesn't want me to learn this stuff. Maybe I'm one of them people that he thinks is just a knobhead and I'm just not allowed to learn it. So I did get a little bit worried as well. But someone was like, the Quran was created was revealed over 23 years. And you think you're going to read it in a week and understand it. They were like, don't be an idiot. And I was like, right, okay. So going back to when I'm going to take my shahada. So I learned the movements of the prayer. And then I made a new routine for my week, and I put in there 3 times for Quran studies. And so I sat down and I printed off the surahs in chronological order. And I thought, right, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to concentrate. I'm not just going to lay in bed and read a book. I'm going to sit and I'm going to understand this, whether it kills me or not. And I opened the surah. I think it was Surah 96. I think is the first revelation in chronological order. And I put my phone here, I had the Quran here, and I had YouTube open ready. I read it. It made a little bit of sense. I YouTubed it, watched an AI video on it on a good source that someone told me to look at. That's put it all into context for me. I read it again. Any words that I didn't understand, I'd have a little Google. And it just all makes even just the first sort of the enjoyment and the relaxation and the noise switched off in my head from the outside world while I was doing this with the Quran. I was like, yeah, that's me. I'm done. And I remember sitting here really anxious. And I don't know if you know a man called Faris Al Hamadi.
I
He's
don't.
quite a big. He does a lot of dawah online. He's very big in the UAE. Amazing human. And he's been very helpful with me over the last few weeks. And I texted him so I was sitting here really anxious, like, wow, these are the 2 things. I've learned to pray and I've started studying the Quran. They're the 2 things I said I'd do before I took my shahada, and I've done them and I've enjoyed it. And so it's the time for the jump, bro. And I was like, wow, like I was sitting here a bit anxious. And so after about an hour and about 5 cigarettes, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to text Faris. So I texted him at 2 a.m. saying, bro, I'm ready. And then at 9 a.m. he replied back, let's go. And then boom, when I woke up, he did my shahada.
So that's Ferris. Yeah, I seen that video.
Yeah.
I seen your shahada video. That was beautiful. I think that, when you share your shahada story, I've been a Muslim for over 25 years, and alhamdulillah, I've made shahada with many people after me that I did dawah with. I've seen many people become Muslim. And
Nice.
if you ever question if Islam is real, just listen to the shahada stories, because all of us, millions and millions and millions of people who have reverted to Islam, we always have the same core story involved. Every single one of it. When you're sitting here telling me your Shahada story, I'm just thinking this is exactly almost like mine. And I've heard it so many times, time after time after time. The first thing is, like you say, that you've only been studying for a couple of weeks and then you become a Muslim. In fact, you've actually been preparing for this your entire life from the day you were born, brother. You just didn't know it, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives you all of the falsehoods so that you know the difference between false and correct, darkness and light, right? So as reverts, we have a perspective of Islam that born Muslims don't have. And this doesn't make us better or special. We're not. But it gives us a perspective that Muslims who are raised Muslim their entire life don't have, and that is, we know what it's like to not be a Muslim. And once you become a Muslim, you would never want to go back to the filth of not being a Muslim, right?
Yeah.
And it's that same thing. Like, I remember that I basically had the same thought of, I had begun my journey and I started studying all the different religions. I was at the lowest point in my life and I was like, okay, obviously I got to get right with God. If there's a God out there, I got to figure out who he is and what he wants from me, because my life is in shambles right now. And so I started studying everything from Judaism, Christianity, which is what my family was. So I looked into that, but I always had a problem with the Trinity and all of that. It didn't make sense, because God in the
Mm.
Bible says, thou shalt have no God before me, thou shalt have no son before me. I mean, over and over and over again, it's rejecting the divinity of Jesus and Jesus himself.
Mm.
Even it says, thou art no good except for the Father in heaven. Why do thou call me good? I mean, over and over and over again, he says he's not God, he's not divine, etc. So why are the Christians telling me that I'm supposed to pray to him instead of God?
Mm.
I studied Hinduism, Taoism, Shinto, Native American beliefs. Like, I
I've
went through
looked
the
at all
whole
of this as
gambit.
well.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And the very last religion that I studied was from another revert, blonde hair, blue eyes, Marine sergeant who converted over during the first Gulf War.
Oh,
And
wow.
I started asking him questions about it, because this was the one religion I had yet to study. And he was like, I'm a revert. I barely know my religion as it is. Here's a copy of the Quran. Just read it and then make up your own mind. And I read all the way through, halfway through Surat al-Baqarah. And I remember I was just laying on the bed after reading that, and I put the book down and I was like, man, this literally just answered all of the questions that I had about the divinity of Jesus. And, Muslims
Incredible.
believe in Jesus, but he is the prophet. That's literally what Messiah means. And the purpose of life is just to worship God alone. There's no
Hmm.
rabbis, there's no priests in between, even an imam. An imam's just a leader of a prayer. He doesn't come between you and God. You have a
Yeah.
direct connection with God, and that's your whole purpose of life. And I was like, okay, so here's the deal, God. I believe in everything that I just read, but I'm too stupid to figure this out for myself. So if I'm supposed to be a Muslim, put it in my heart, don't take it away. If I'm supposed to be something else, put it in my heart, don't take it away. Wallahi, the next morning I woke up with the greatest sense of peace at the
Oh,
lowest
man.
point of my life. Greatest
That
sense of
makes
peace
me
I had ever had.
emotional just listening to that.
Yeah.
That's mad,
So
bro.
that's the beauty of Islam. I just realized I had two microphones on here. I was recording videos before we started. And so I think that's a lot of things that the people who are anti-Islam, most of whom are just ignorant and they've never met a Muslim, they don't know anything about Islam.
Mm.
I get them in the comments because I get well over 100,000 comments per month, and most of them are very supportive, very positive comments. But then you get the haters, and they'll say, "Well, why don't you go to a Muslim country? They'll behead you," or something like that. And so here you are, you're a white British man, you have tattoos on your face, so you're very, very visible that you're not an Arab, you don't come from that area, right? How have you been treated over there? Because you said part of the reason that led you to Islam was the character of the Muslims over there.
Well, to give you some backup on that, they will not behead you. I actually have a tattoo instructing them to do it. It says "cut here." So if they were gonna, I think they would have by now. Like, I've been here 18 months and I've been a Muslim 6 days. So no one can say, "Oh, it's because you're a Muslim they treated you like this." Me and my family, my wife and two daughters, right, have been welcomed into this country with open arms, open hearts, open minds. I cannot believe the hospitality that we get. I can't believe the way the country's run. We have been to weddings, birthdays, we've been to houses, we've been to iftars, and like I say, this was all just because I was a little bit interested in their culture. I didn't really care about the religion, if I'm honest. I just wanted to know what my neighbours and what my hosts were doing and how they lived to try and be a little bit more respectful across the way. And because we gave this much, we have got so the kids get spoiled with gifts, even at Christmas, even their birthdays. They go around their friends' houses, they get takeaways, they get gifts, they get clothes. The Muslim people, I'm telling you, are the most caring, kind, generous, loving people you could ever meet. And now I'm saying this, it might take the sting out of a little bit because I've taken my shahada now and I am a Muslim. But I mean, for somebody that looks like me, you don't think that these people would want me associated with their businesses. They're like they show me off. Like they like to show me off, even though I look like this. One of the guys, Saeed, his name is, lovely man, invited us to his house. So he took me to his tailor to get some candoras, mate. And you'd think like this tailor that he has been a lifelong family friend for his family, generations. And you'd think he wouldn't want to be seen with me. Geezer turning up, Stone Island t-shirt, shorts, tattoo on his face. But they're like, oh, this is Frank. Like, this is, you know, that like they love it. They invite me to their restaurants. I can't pay for anything. I'll try and pay for something. They'll like, get angry. This is why people say to me all the time, I'll go live in the Middle East then. I'm like, bro, I am. And trust me, I get treated better here than I do in my own country. My wife and kids have got more respect in this country and they're safer in this country than they did in my own country. It's another thing that makes me laugh as well is the tax, you know, the jizya that the far right bring up all the time. Or you got to pay a tax if you're a non-Muslim. Bro, I lived in the UK for 32 years of my life and I got taxed to my eyeballs. Do you know how much tax I've paid in a Muslim country as a non-Muslim? Zero. I pay no tax here. Okay, there's visa fees and there's this and there's that. But I'm like, you literally are that ignorant. I paid a lot more tax in my own country than I do in a Muslim country. Get some context to what these things are.
Bro, that
Stop.
I say that all the time. Like, I wish they had the jizya tax in the United States because it would save me about 32% on taxes. You know what I mean? Like, please bring the jizya, please. That's only 2% of my entire income. I
Yeah.
would like now. Obviously, I'm a Muslim, so I wouldn't qualify for it. I'd have to pay the Muslim tax, which is more
This
than
is more, yeah.
what the non-Muslims would have to pay. So the non-Muslims would actually get a better deal if the Islam was here in the United States. The other thing I know you mentioned that you walk your dog every night, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the biggest lies out there online from the Islamophobes and the paid agitators is that they know, like in the United States, and I don't know how it is in the UK because I've never been there, but in the United States, it's dog culture. Like people love their dogs like
Yeah.
more than their children.
My
Sometimes
dog's my best friend. Yeah.
yeah, people will literally go out and put their dogs in the will over their own children in the United States. That's how much people love their dogs.
I love him, but not that much.
They try to attack Islam by making these false statements that one, Muslims hate dogs, are scared to death of dogs, treat dogs horribly, etc., etc., etc. Even though in Islam, we're told that a prostitute was given heaven. She was forgiven for all of her prostitution and sins because she gave water to a thirsty dog. And the Prophet ﷺ never abused a single animal, and to do so is actually a sin. So you're in a Muslim country, you're walking around, walking your dog, and no one's trying to cut your head off?
Not that I've seen. They might have tried to do it without me looking, but I haven't seen anyone make an attempt on my life. To be fair, the thing is, like, there's some of them. They don't have many dogs here, but so they are. And my dog, he does look tough. He's a big baby. He's soft as anything. The street cats here will beat him up. Like he's that soft. And I don't look like the friendliest guy in the world either. So me walking down the street with my dog with tattoos like this, you'd think people would be like, oh, crossing the street and that. They'll come over, oh, hello. Like, I'll hold the dog tight on the lead because I know they're a little bit frightened of him. But the kids and stuff, they're like, can we stroke him? I'm like, yeah. Like, these are little Arab kids, Pakistani, Indian, Bangladeshi, Filipino. They don't hate dogs. They don't really hate anything, if I'm honest. They're so laid back. And me and my wife, we went to Hatta. It's a part of Dubai in the mountains. It's really beautiful. And we were just watching these Emiratis and again, Pakistanis and Indians, there's quite a few here. They all just seemed like just nothing was an issue, man. I remember sitting there watching them and I was so uptight inside. And I just thought, how are these people like this? Like, and again, they said this because we put our trust in Allah. And you know what? Something that I've lived in fear of every day of my life is failing my wife and kids. If I run out of money and after you move back to the UK, if this happens, if that happens, what if this happens? Like every day, and it was eating me up to the point where I thought, I'm not going to be alive much longer. My body can't cope with the stress that I live with and the anxiety that I live with. It used to frighten me. I'm fat, I smoke, I'm not healthy, and all this stress and anxiety, it's going to end up putting me in an early grave. And the day I took my Shahada, and I swear to God, this is the truth. The next day I woke up and it was gone. And it was gone. And I'm telling you, when I tell you that fear and that anxiety is a strong man, as a guy that's been through a lot and won and kept getting up, That was one of the biggest drains on my life. It was one of the toughest battles to wake up every day and fight that. It was that powerful and strong and set in me. And yeah, I just don't have it now. I'm like, you know, it is what it is. I'm going to try and do what I can do. If a door opens and I get my breakthrough and I make lots of money and we're financially secure, then brilliant. But if it doesn't, it just wasn't meant for me. Who am I to tell God what my path should be? I'm just going to be the best human that I can be, and just whatever happens, happens. And it was supposed to happen. So, you know what? Yeah, things are going to hurt. Things are going to be tough. Like, I'm not saying that life's going to be plain sailing from now on because I'm a Muslim, but I just think to myself, you know what? There's things that have happened in my life where I thought they were bad and they were actually good. Businesses failing, I thought was bad, when actually at the time I was a massive alcoholic. And if I'd have become a rich man at that time, I'd have just been a bigger alcoholic and I'd have been a loser of a dad and a husband. And it failed in an instant. It wasn't like a slow failure. It just flopped instantly. And I was like, wow, why am I so unlucky? Well, actually, no, bro, you'd have probably lost your wife and kids.
Yeah.
Would have been put in prison in Dubai somewhere for being an idiot and fighting, because you can't act like a fool here. And so now I look back, I'm like, wow, these things that I thought were terrible were actually brilliant. My mental health, so something that I've struggled with mental health and alcohol and prison and all these sorts of things that I thought were bad. Listen, my kids now have the best mentor they could ever have as a father, because I have done everything. I have been round the block a million times. So although it is bad, I'm so grateful for these things, because God knew how much of a protective father I would be. God knew before I even knew he existed of what I'd be like as a dad. And my biggest thing is to nurture and guide my children to be good human beings. So he's like, okay, well, I'm going to give you all the tools for that, my friend. I'm going to give you all the tools for it. So I look back now and I'm like, well, at the time I might think these things that happen are bad, but actually in the end, they're probably best for me. Seeing all that, it all just sort of come together. And like, I got paid the other day, and usually I'm looking at my bank, right, where does this money go? I need to save a little bit. I haven't even checked my bank account since I got paid. I'm like, well, it is what it is. When it runs out, it runs out. I'll knock the door. I'll knock my Muslim neighbour's door for a bowl of rice, mate. They're never going to say no. One thing I say here in the UAE as well, I said, if I've got 10 friends to call, if I've got a problem, I'll only ever need to make one phone call, because the first one will say yes. With Muslims, what they say here, obviously there's no benefit system here, especially for foreigners. They're like, yeah, well, once they're finished with you, they'll just boot you out. I'm like, well, you don't think I could bring one of my friends and say, can I sleep in your house for a few months till I get back on my feet? I'm like, I have more protection here with no benefit system, no healthcare, no schooling us. I have more protection. That my kids will never go hungry in the UAE, ever, because anybody would feed us. I mean, when we first moved here, we lived in a street. Our next door neighbour was a Syrian, then a Moroccan, then a Jordanian. Opposite was an Emirati and someone from Yemen. And then there was an Indian. Then there was a Pakistani family. Mate, I have never had so much food given to me in all my life. I had to say to them, stop, because I'm wasting it. It's becoming bad. I'm not the skinniest bloke in the world, so I wasn't moaning too much. But yeah, it was insane. But like, you just get treated so nice. Like, people have got Islam so wrong. And listen, I am a proper British beer drinking, drug taking, fighting, football watching British man. I am as British as they come, and I grew up like that. If I have accepted Islam, it's because it is unbelievable. I didn't need to do it for friends, because all my friends were Muslim anyway and they loved me. I've been to prison twice, over 7 years ago. I never reverted twice in prison because I didn't feel like I needed protection. I haven't done it for any other reason apart from, even if you didn't believe the Quran is the word of God, it is a perfect handbook for being a proper human. It's the same as, like, I talk to men in the UK. Yeah, well, I want to protect my women and kids. All right, bro. Well, I'll tell you what. Islam tells my kids not to drink, not to take drugs, not to have sex before marriage, not to gamble, and to dress modestly. They're 5 things, just them 5 things off the top of my head. Do you want that for your daughter? Yeah, well, Islam protects your women and kids then, bro.
Exactly.
My wife has more rights in Islam than I do. But she took a shahada as well, and I'm trying to hold these bits of information back
Alhamdulillah.
from her because it's going to cost me too much money. But she has more right to my money than I do.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
I
and I'm
mean,
like, if you want
people
to
don't even
protect your women and
understand.
kids,
People don't even understand. Islam gave women the right to property, the right to divorce, the right to, make their own decisions, etc. In the West, I mean, women only barely got those rights in the last 60 years. Prior to that, and today you still lawfully cannot get a divorce in Catholicism. If you're a Catholic woman and you try to go get a divorce, you're committing a sin. And the Catholic
Wow.
Church won't give it to you. They won't grant it. And women didn't have the right to property ownership in England and in the United States until the past 100 years. And
Yeah.
you look at all of the different things. And another example is in Western culture, it used to be that you had a shared role between husband and wife. The
Mm-hmm.
husband was expected to go out and earn because
Mm-hmm.
most jobs were heavy physical labor jobs back then. And
Mm-hmm.
so women were expected to stay home and raise the kids and take care of the home. And she couldn't, in Christianity, she could never own a business. But the Prophet ﷺ's first wife, Khadija, radiallahu anha,
She was
she
a
was a very
businesswoman.
successful business owner. And
Yeah.
he actually worked on her behalf to protect her
Yeah.
wealth. And people
Yeah.
don't know this. They think, oh, Islam is oppressive against women. My wife helps me run our business, but she doesn't have to. She does it because she wants to. I tell her
Mm-hmm.
all the time, but you don't have to work. I love doing it. I wanna, work. She runs all the accounting and stuff.
Yeah.
And at the same time, her money is her money. I can't even ask her how much money she has in the bank.
I literally said this to someone last night that said, "Oh, I can't believe you're raising your daughters in a Muslim country. Why don't you read that old book that you lot like to look at and find out what women's rights are?" And I'm like, "Bro, you are so ignorant." And I said these exact things. I said, "You know, if I work and earn 10 grand a month, and my wife works and earns 10 grand a month, I said her money is her money, and I'm not allowed to know how much she earns or how much she's got. I said, and my money is her money." I said, this is just how it is. And if she gives any of that money towards the family, i.e. buying furniture for the house or medical care, it goes down as charity in the eyes of God.
Exactly.
That's classed as a charity. I said, it's the man's, this is our job to, I said, and women are encouraged. I want to raise my children as wives and mothers. I would rather them that than a career. I will back them if they want a career 100%. But even in Islam, it's encouraged that women earn their own money. It's encouraged to have your own money and be safe and be secure by yourself without having to rely on a man. If that doesn't tell you that we want these women to be free of any oppression, it's crazy. Even in the UAE, if a woman, obviously you've got to be Emirati citizen, but if the women get a divorce here, within a week the government will have paid them, bought them a house and a car cash. So I'm like, so they actually probably would be better for a woman here to be divorced. Like they have an easy way out. It's not like well, if we get divorced here, we're not going to have any money, so we're going to stay in an abusive relationship. No, you have every right and actually a very easy route out of marriage. Like if your husband is the tiniest piece of an idiot, you have no reason to stay. You could just go, well, I don't need him financially. I don't need him for anything, actually. I can leave. And I'm like, it gives them such a great option in life. They don't have to sit in a relationship where they're being abused. Where in the UK, women do need their men over there. The cost of living crisis. You can't afford to run a house on your own in the UK. So yeah, the lies and the propaganda. I have never witnessed anything so insane in my life, which made me go further down the rabbit hole as to why this is happening, who's paying for this propaganda, why they want to pay for this propaganda. And then that led me to the Zionism stuff and global elites and then dehumanizing Muslims across the globe to get away with what they're doing in the Middle East and places like Palestine. And then also taking the Western morality away. If you look back to England, the women were covered, the men were out working, they didn't have sex before marriage, they weren't doing drugs, they weren't drinking heavily. I'm like, this has all been taken away from us. This has all been taken away from us by these people. Why? Because you're so reliant on your government when you're an alcoholic or when you can't afford to do this or when, and then you got kids not having kids anymore because they think they're the opposite sex or they're gay or lesbian or, and all these things are getting fed into this society that are absolutely ruining it. And they hate Islam because it will not bend to the nonsense. It will not bend to it. And I think if you even look at just the 5 pillars and if you just look at the morality of Islam and how it works, and I mean, listen, I'm not some ISIS recruit man and radicalizer and brainwasher, but if the whole world was Muslim, it would be a much better world. And I would have said that if I wasn't a Muslim. And I've seen a lot of Christians online, actually, saying that we will always pick the morality of Muslims over Christian countries because they live how we should be living. They live how Christians should live and did live.
I think it's funny, like, on my social media, I do a lot of debunking videos
Mm.
where people will try and, smear Islam, and then I'll debunk their videos because most of the time they're lying, even though they accuse the Muslims of taqiyya all the time, and they have no idea what taqiyya actually is.
That's another one, yeah, that I found out that I learned
Eh,
about, which was
yeah.
great.
So, I mean, and for people who don't know who's watching this video, taqiyya is permission in Islam. If, for example, someone was holding a gun to your head telling you you have to leave Islam, you could say, okay, I'll leave Islam as long as you still have Islam in your heart. That is taqiyya. There is no permission in Islam for Muslims to go out and lie about Islam to convert people
Mm.
because the
No,
Quran
it's a
says,
sin.
La ikraha fi din, there is no compulsion in this religion. And therefore, if you were to lie about the religion to get somebody to convert, that would be considered compulsion, and their
Mhm.
conversion would not even be accepted anyway. So there's that. And one of the things that I try to do is to educate the non-Muslims in the United States and the West, Canada, UK, etc., of
Mhm.
what the truth is behind Islam and Muslims. And one thing that we always have to, basically remind people is Islam is a religion may be perfect, but Muslims are not. And so the implementation of Islam is never going to be perfect because the only thing that is perfect is God himself, Allah.
Mhm.
And so you're going to see, for example, extremist sects. We know that
Mhm.
these have existed since just after the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And he even said that when these extremist sects pop up their heads, if he were to be alive at that time, he would raise his own sword against them. And so
Mhm.
every single time one of these extremist groups from calling themselves Muslims, they always do two things. One, they always attack Muslims. They almost
Yeah.
never attack non-Muslims. They're not out there attacking Christians. They're not out there attacking Jews. They're always attacking Muslims. So that's one symbol of how you know that this is an extremist group that is not from Islam, because they're actually enemies of Islam, pretending to be Muslims. And then the other thing is, who has defeated these extremist sects every single time? The
Yeah.
Muslims, not the
Yeah.
Jews, not the Christians, nobody else.
Mhm.
It's always
Yeah.
been the Muslims who have gone in and fought against extremists. And so
Yeah.
you might find, for example, they talk about the grooming gangs in London. Now, a lot of this is just propaganda, but there are some people from immigrant communities.
Mhm.
They always like to pick on Pakistan, but anybody with an Indian accent, they say is from Pakistan. They could be Indian, they could be Bangladeshi, they could be from a whole bunch of the subcontinent countries, but they always say Pakistan. They go and they talk to a 13-year-old girl online. They try to meet up with them to have sex with them, which is haram, by the
Mhm.
way. And if they were to do that in a Muslim country, the hudud, the Islamic punishment, would be meted out on them. If they're married and they did that, it would be the death penalty. And if they were not married, it would be the lashings. So there are going to be bad Muslims, bad Muslims, right? At the same time, the vast majority of Muslims, just like the vast majority of Christians, are not bad people. They're just trying to
No.
live their life, raise their kids, go to work, have a retirement fund.
Yeah.
We may have a disagreement on the divinity of Jesus, and we may have a disagreement on other religious items and stuff. But at the end of the day, we're all from Adam and Eve, and we're all just trying to live our life. And that's the way Islam is. We're not trying to conquer the world by the sword. For example, if you look at Indonesia, the most populated Muslim country in the world, not one
Mhm.
single Muslim army ever stepped foot there. Same thing
Yeah.
with
I
Malaysia,
literally.
same thing with Brunei, same thing with the Philippines.
It's mad that you say this. So I have notes on my phone, and sometimes when I'm out and about and I'm thinking, and I get a content idea, I'll put it in there, and it's got them countries listed, saying, "Oh, how are these?" Because Arabs only make up 20% of Muslims, I think. Yeah, how are these countries become Muslim? And then I thought, well, let me look into it before I make myself look like an idiot. I've looked at the history. There was no invasion. There was no war. There was no empire that had landed there. They just become Muslim because they did, because they realised it's the truth.
Yeah, the biggest exchange of one's indigenous religious beliefs to Islam comes from merchants, from Muslim countries.
Mm,
So
yeah,
that's how Indonesia discovered
it's done by
Islam.
trade and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the trade, the Muslim merchants would come there, and because they did something that was so astonishing to these other cultures, which was whenever you dealt with a Muslim trader, you knew you were always going to get a fair deal. There was never any incidences where you would be like, "Oh yeah, you can't deal with those Muslim traders because they lie and cheat." Like most of that was the common practice. Allah even tells us that in the Quran, that this is one of the major sins of doing this and the cause of destruction of countries from doing that. Whereas with the Muslims, people were always happy to do trade with them because they knew that the Muslims wouldn't lie, cheat, change the weight scales, any of that. And so
yeah,
their honesty, their character, just like you living in Ajman in a Muslim country, you seen the character of the Muslims and that drew people to it. That's how
yeah,
Indonesia became Muslim. That's how Malaysia
yeah,
became Muslim. That's how Brunei became Muslim. That's how the southern Philippines became Muslim. No
yeah.
Muslim
I
army
think
ever stepped foot there.
in Dubai alone, in the first half of 2026, there was over 5,000 reverts. And this is what really annoys me about sometimes some Western Muslims. They've seen how much propaganda I fight, Western propaganda that I fight about Islam, yet they will believe it about the UAE, about being in bed with Israel, being a Zionist country. Listen, this country and their people changed a man that would have laughed at you 2 years ago if you said I would be Muslim to a Muslim. He's made my wife a Muslim. My wife and daughter are at the other side of the phone right now praying. My other daughter's just coming in to do it. I know friends that are already asking me about Islam and what if Luke's changed to it, then what the hell? They can't believe it. They were like, we'd never think this. 4 years ago, I was having a fight, being mental. And even they're like, well, if he's done it, there must be something here. So to say that any of these GCC countries, if I'm honest, I've been to Oman, I'm going to Saudi, I've been invited to Umrah. So any of these GCC countries, just because they're not making Islam political, just because they're not jumping into wars to defend other Muslims, doesn't mean that they're in bed with the enemy. I know this for a fact. I know how people think here, and I know maybe sometimes people need to look at the long game. Having wars in the Middle East has never helped Palestine. It never has. But building economic giants and military powerhouses over the next 50 to 100 years, of which the GCC want to do, then they are big enough to then go, right, we ain't having this no more. We're the ones with the holding the cards. We've got a big army. We don't rely on the dollar. We don't rely on this. We don't. Where we can stand on our own 2 feet against you and you. So stop. And I'm like, this is where people need to open their eyes. If the GCC countries, which have done incredible things over the last 50, 60, 70, 100 years to come from a desert to what they are now, give them another 50 years, and these guys will be in a position to start stamping their foot a little bit and barking some orders across the globe. So I think the best thing for Islam as well is something that really shocked me is I documented this whole journey on social media, from me fighting Islam to wanting to learn about it to being very, very close to my Shahada. Not one Muslim pushed me in any single way. And if they thought I was doing things too quick, they'd actually say to me, take your time, slow down. Now, in the West, you think that I'd come here and I'd have 10 Muslims at my door. Right, this is what you need to do. This is this. We're going to get a laser pen and get the tattoos up. You'd think that you're going to be forced into this mad cult of
Like some
do
Jehovah
this or
Witness
you're
stuff.
dead. It was the complete opposite.
Yeah.
I know that there were people out there dying for me to take my Shahada. I could feel in their energy, how you doing today? Just waiting. We were all waiting on the edge of their seats. But not one of them, regardless of how much they cared for me to take my Shahada, not one of them said, do it now, do it now, do it now, get it done. It was insane. It was the level of patience and support that I got, which you don't think when you're taught about Islam in the West. It's not something I thought. And then, my God, when I took my Shahada, my house looks like a warehouse. It has that many boxes of gifts in it. That I thought that Muslims loved me a lot. And then I took my Shahada. I was like, you have more? There is more love in Islam? What the hell's going on? It has been, and someone that's not grown up emotionally supported or anything like that, or loved very much or cared for very much, and it has been overwhelming. It's been very hard to take it all in. What a group of people, what a religion. And yet I just I'm 34, and I know many people said this to me. You'd have wished you'd done it sooner. And my God, if I was 20 years old and I would have took my Shahada 15, 13, 12, I'd have lived a completely different life.
But, you know,
And I would
I
have
I
definitely,
say the same thing, like, I wish I would have been, raised Muslim or had a different life, but then when I really think about it is, you know, the strength that I have, the ability that I have, the story that I have that resonates with other people, the ability to
yes.
speak to other people
Hmm.
that have been through similar situations because I know what they're going through is so
Hmm.
much more powerful than maybe if
Yeah.
I had been raised in a Muslim
Yeah.
family, right? And
Yeah.
so one thing I always tell people, you know, it's guys like us, it's a responsibility. It's not just a privilege to be a Muslim and be from the West. It's now a heavy responsibility, even more so than somebody who was born and raised from Saudi or Pakistan or Indonesia. And the reason being is because those countries are already Muslim, right? They
Hmm.
have a responsibility to remind themselves about the principles of Islam and to stay on the deen. But we have a responsibility to tell our people where we come from about
Hmm.
Islam because when it comes down to it, there's two ways that people are going to learn the deen.
Hmm.
One is if they do what you did and they move to a Muslim country and they feel the love and the good character and etc. Or they hear it from the mouth of somebody similar to them, somebody from their tribe, so to speak, right?
Hmm.
And we know that this is a sunnah from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that as Islam was growing and he was sending out messengers to the different tribes, one thing he would always do is if somebody from that tribe had become Muslim, he would send that person after getting the requisite knowledge. He would send that person back to the tribe with a couple of the people from the Sahaba because he knows their customs, he knows their language, he knows how they have conversations, and so
Hmm.
he can resonate with his own people, and when it's coming from the inside rather than outside, it's much
Hmm.
more effective. So every Muslim who, for example, in the African American community, we have great brothers doing
Hmm.
fantastic work. Brothers and sisters. I don't want to leave the sisters out because they do a tremendous amount of dawah just by wearing the hijab, they're doing dawah.
Hmm.
Right? And but at the same time, if I was to go to the south side of Chicago and start preaching Islam to a bunch of young black American kids, they're not going to pay as much attention to me as maybe my brother Wilmar from south
Hmm.
side of Chicago is
Yeah.
going to be able to influence them. So where's my
Hmm.
job? My job is then to talk to the white Americans. And again, like I've always leaned more on the right side of the political scale.
Hmm.
Obviously, just because I'm a guy and I believe that men are men and women are women and there is no in between or confusion, that's just
Hmm.
insanity. So I don't lean there. But I also believe it's the government's responsibility to provide good roads, good education, healthcare, etc. That otherwise, why are we paying them our taxes if they're not going to do that?
Yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
need them. I mean, I could buy my own healthcare with my tax money if you stop taking it from me.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think that it's an amazing opportunity. It's a privilege to be a Muslim, to be given that the most precious gift you can give. And I always
Man.
I ask because I grew up rough. I'm from California. You know, I had a dark, younger life, and I always think like, why did Allah give me this huge blessing?
I know.
And there was something inside my heart, even though I was not a good person at the time, there was something in my heart that was good and
Hmm.
that recognized truth. And I think, like, for me, I think one of the things was because I grew up around a lot of African Americans and Latinos in my ghetto neighborhood, is that I never experienced racism from like the perspective of maybe if I had grown up in Arkansas or something in a white family. So
Mm.
for me, I didn't even understand what racism was. Like we were all poor, we were all hungry, we were,
Yeah.
my mom was a single mom, you know, and so maybe that was it. But whatever it is, whatever that goodness that was in our heart that allowed us to accept Islam, now like we're like you, I mean, you're literally like a 6-day-old baby right now. right? All of your past life is wiped completely clean. All of those sins are
Mm,
gone, right?
mm.
But now you have this great blessing, but you also have this great responsibility to share the message with everybody else. And you're doing that on social media, which is how I came across. And I seen you come across my feed a couple of times, like, oh, this guy's pretty interesting. He's got some interesting stuff to say. He's over there in the UAE. I mean, he's got tattoos on his face. I've never been to the UAE, but my wife lived there for 10 years. So
Oh,
she's
nice.
told me about it. And I was like, I wonder what his experience is like having tattoos on his face, being white, being from Britain. And I got to talk to this guy. So like by the third video, that's when I reached out and I was like, hey, bro, you want to do a podcast together? Because you got an
Yeah.
interesting story, man.
Yeah, but yeah, like I said, the tattoos, I get a few little people trying to sneaky video me, or like some of the younger kids, they'll be like looking at it and want to touch it. But do you know what? A thing that I've learned about Islam is when, because I say to them, I must look like a freak to you, lot. And they're like, we don't even know what you look like to us. We don't see you. We see what's inside. You're a nice, kind, loving person, respectful, funny. They're like, we don't, mate. We don't care what you look like, as long as as long as you're that and you're morally in check. You're a brother, man.
Which is
And
crazy
then,
because
yeah,
if
like,
you were in the US and you were to walk into a store with a bunch of women in there, they would probably like be fearful and like, oh,
yeah,
stay away from this guy. He looks like a
yeah,
biker, you know what I mean? Whereas the
I've
Muslims, it's
been,
like, "Oh, look at this beautiful soul here. Let's go and
yeah,
make friends with him."
yeah. And it has literally been like that. It's been absolutely insane. Like, I go to a majlis with the guys here. It's like a big community majlis. The first time I went there, I walked in, there was like 50 Arabs in Candoras, right? They all stood, every single one of them stood up, shook my hand, kiss on each cheek, hug, how are you? Every single one of them come around and done it, sat me down, got me a tea, got me a coffee, bought dinner. This is your place now. You do as you please. And I was sitting there like, I must look like an absolute freak to these. Like, they've never, especially in Asman, they've never seen anyone that looks like me. And they just didn't give two hoots. Like, they didn't care at all. And it's where I probably would have felt most conscious. But now that majlis is my safe place. Like, it's where I go to get away from my wife and kids. It's where I go to get away from outside noise. It's where I go away to forget about the world. I just sit and drink a few teas. Half the time I don't know what anyone's saying because they're talking in Arabic, and I'll sometimes pipe up, but I can sit there in silence on my phone drinking a tea. I don't need to talk to anyone. This is a group of guys that have grown up in the opposite end of the world and life, and I feel so comfortable there. I don't need to speak to anyone. I can just sit there like this, just looking around, and everyone will just know, he's obviously had a long day. We'll leave him alone. I don't need to speak to anyone. It doesn't matter what I wear when I go there. It's insane, mate. And that is Islam. That's not just Arab culture. That is Islam all over. Because you could go, a UK man, an English, British, white atheist could walk in a mosque and say to whoever's in there, can I just have 20 minutes, please, to sit in the corner on my own? Yes, you can, sir. Would you like a tea or coffee? And I can guarantee you 100% of the time, that would be the outcome. And then when you'd finish sitting there for your 20 minutes, are you okay? Is there anything you want to speak about? That is the Islam. That's real Islam. And this is why I am so in love with God for letting me be part of this. I'm so in love with the religion and I'm so in love with our people because they are just incredible.
And that's not and like you said, it's not even just the Arab culture. Like here in the US, I go to masjids all over the place and people don't know me. Some people know me from social media. Some people know me if I've been to that masjid before. But most of the times when I
Mm,
walk into a masjid, like I just had to go down to Vegas for a meeting down there. And I went the night that we were there, the day we got there, I went to a masjid I'd never been to before. Walked in for Maghrib prayer. The brothers like just greeted me like alhamdulillah, welcome, salam alaikum, brother. They'd never seen me. And there's been attacks on mosques by white MAGA men, and still like there was no like second looks or suspicion. It's like, oh, salam
mm.
alaikum, brother. Where are you from, brother? Oh, mashallah, are you staying here? Do you need anything, brother? No, I'm staying in a hotel. I gotta rent a car. Thank you, brother, so much. And then the next night I go to another mosque and it's the same thing. They were having a little majlis. They were studying some Quran and Hadith. I went in, I made Tahiyatul Masjid, the 2 rakats in the masjid, and then I went over to the majlis and I just sat down with the brothers, and all of them just beamed with light, like, "Assalamu alaikum, brother. How are you? Welcome, welcome. What's your name, brother?" "Abdullah Deen."
I
"Oh,
love
okay,
it, man.
good." That's all over. I've been to Somali mosques. I've been to Arab mosques. I've been to Pakistani mosques, and I say that because it's just that the majority go there. That's not like they're
Yeah.
exclusive,
Segregated.
but just that's where the community lives, whatever. And it's been the same experience every single time. I've never had a bad experience from a mosque. I've had a bad experience with a couple of Muslims in the past, but that's because they weren't following the deen. And maybe I wasn't either or something. But either way, going to a mosque, I highly recommend, if you are afraid of Islam, if you are afraid of Muslims, the best way to conquer any fear is to take it head on. Go and learn about it. Right? If you're
Yeah.
afraid of spiders, learn about spiders. If you're afraid of snakes, learn about snakes. If you're afraid of driving a
Become
car,
familiar.
go drive a car. It's the same thing with Islam and Muslims. If you're afraid of Muslims because of all the propaganda, please, for the sake of God and your own soul and sanity, go visit a mosque and you will
Yeah.
see Islam.
You can't put it better than that. And I know, to any white atheist out there, that is a daunting thing to do. No one's asking you to become an imam or a scholar. And I know it would be hard to just walk into a mosque. It's a completely different. I was nervous to do it, even though I was going with a Muslim in a Muslim country. But just, if you think that, if you want to save the Western world, they're the sort of things that you need to do. So if you are one of them smash up police cars and chuck bins at people's houses to save your women and children, if you're that guy and you are real and honest with yourself and you want to save your women and children, then these are the steps you need to take, because you're being fed the wrong enemy. You're being fed the wrong enemy, and they are making your family and your life and your society immoral dumps. So if you want to do these things, we need to start finding unity. Muslims, Christians, Jews, atheists, Sikhs, Hindus, we are stronger together. And if 10 men with 10 different colors from 10 different countries and 10 different religions all sat round a table and had a conversation and said, "What do you want in life?" "I just want my kids to be happy and to earn a few quid." We're all the same. We're all the same. We just want to be a better human. We want to please our God or gods or whatever you believe in. That is down to you. But as men and women and kids, we're all just human. We're all probably going to be saying the same. "I wouldn't mind the promotion. Oh, I wouldn't mind the new Mercedes that come out. Oh, my wife moans a lot." We'd all be talking about the same stuff and the same thing. These elites, they don't want this. Of course they don't, because when we go, "Oh, what? So, Steve, you don't hate me because I'm Muslim?" "No." "What? And you actually don't mind Sikhs?" "No, I don't mind Sikhs." "Well, why have we all been arguing? What are these people talking about? Actually, let's be friends and work together." They can't handle that. Then they're in deep shit. And that's when we take power back.
And I
But
tell people all the
some,
time too, like, when you start arguing with people in the comments, just remember you have about an 80% chance of that being an AI bot. Right? So,
really?
yeah, like they're flooding.
Wow.
They're literally flooding social media with anti-Islam comments at a rate that is humanly impossible. So there's many studies that have come out that said as much as 80% of the anti-Islam comments are actually bots coming from a very certain country, and it's insane, right? Like the vast majority, and I noticed this
That's
too
probably
because I
why they're
like to.
pretty much all the same then. All the comments are the same subject.
Islam is cancer. How many times have you seen that in your comment section?
And Aisha was this old. And
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
it's all the
always the
same
exact
thing.
same phrase, and then when you look at the profile of the commenter, it's usually somebody with no name. It's got a randomized name that
Yeah.
Instagram came up with. Who on Instagram just accepts whatever Instagram name comes up with? Like
Yeah.
JK41772. Like
Yeah.
nobody uses that. Only a bot
Yeah.
would do that because they're creating hundreds of thousands of
Loads of
accounts, and
accounts, yeah.
there's been lots of investigative reports about it. So I always tell people, like, don't argue in the comments with these bots because you're literally just arguing with an AI now. So it's not worth your time. What I always tell them do is to engage with the content creators that you enjoy, that you trust, that you know is giving you actual good information, which is what we try to do on the Daily Rumble. I know that's what you're trying to do on your social media.
Yeah.
Engage with them, don't engage with the bots because you're just wasting your
Yeah,
time.
and I think from my experience and obviously becoming Muslim, the reasons why I did, I think the best way to show people the way to Islam is by being a really good Muslim. And I sometimes do myself an injustice with that because I do lose my temper a little bit. Or I will get into back and forth. It's something that I said when I took my Shahada I will stop doing because before I was fighting for Islam, now I'm representing it. And I've got to have a different mindset and I've got to be a better person to do that because the last thing I want to do is make people think, see, I knew it. I knew that they were like this. See, he's reverted to Islam and he's still threatening people and doing this and doing that. So I think like the Emirati showed me the way by being such good people. I think if everybody online, even if someone says something about our religion, don't then knock Christianity or Judaism. Just either say, listen, I hope you sort your head out or you feel better soon, or maybe give them a little bit of polite information that they're wrong and counteract that. But just by being a good person, let's just show the world how great we really are and how great God is and how great Muhammad is and how great Islam is. And by doing that, I feel like that the other day I sat and I thought, right, I want to be a better dad. I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better human, a better colleague, a better friend. I thought, just be a better Muslim. And you'll just cover all of them in one go. So if we can show people the way to Islam or just the way of being better and how Islam lives and just some of the instructions that make us better people, even if they don't come to the religion, if we can get this information out there, then together we can change the world. I believe that. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, my own personal experience was I think about a year into me being a Muslim. I was talking to my mother on the phone, and she'd been agnostic her whole life. She believed in God, but not a religion. And
Mm,
I had told her a few times, but I wasn't like doing heavy dawah with her or anything. But I had told her that I had reverted to Islam, and this is kind of what it's about. And we believe in Jesus, we believe in God, all of the prophets, etc. But she never really wanted to talk about it because, again, she's agnostic. She wasn't into religion. And then I think about a year into it, one day I was just randomly having a phone call with mom, and she said, "Who are you?" And I was like, "Huh?" And she said, "Yeah, like, who am I talking to? Because this isn't my son. This is like a whole nother person." And I was
mm.
like, "What do you mean, mom?" She's like, "Well, you used to be rude and you used to be loud and you used to be
Oh,
like
amazing.
interrupt me, and now you're so respectful and you're such a better man, and like this is the
Mm.
man I always wanted you to be. Like, what is going on with you?" I said, "Mom, I told you, Islam."
Wow.
I
That's
became a Muslim.
powerful, bro.
And so my mother said, "Okay, give me a Quran. I want to know what this religion is now because I see the change in
Incredible.
you." I gave her the Quran. We studied it together for about a month or two. And my mom made Shahada. She ended up returning to Allah about a year later. So she
MashaAllah.
returned to Allah as a Muslima. So alhamdulillah. And then I had an amazing dream. And we know some dreams are just, your brain working in the background, and some dreams are gifts from Allah to give you assurance of things. And I had a dream of my mother after her passing, and I seen her, and yallah, this is gonna make me cry.
Oh, brother.
She was coming out of the masjid. She was wearing a white dress, and I asked her,
Mm.
"How are you?" And she said, "Everything is alhamdulillah. Everything is beautiful. I'm fine."
MashaAllah.
So,
That's
yeah,
amazing.
man, it's that's the thing. It's our character. And so I even, like, you see these viral videos and stuff of Muslims getting into it with antagonists and stuff on the street, and
Mm.
you see the Muslims start using the F word and talking
Mhm.
about, "Oh, well, your mama's ugly," or "You're this," or "You're that," and I just shake my head and I'm like, "What are you doing?" That's
Yeah, one
not
of the
how a
first
Muslim represents Islam. I know you're upset because this person is being a piece of trash, and they're
mm,
trashing the religion, they're trashing you, but the Prophet ﷺ never argued with anybody. And
mm,
he would just say things of truth, and he would say it in the best manner, and that's the way that we have to operate. Otherwise, we're just lowering ourselves down to what
I
Shaitan
agree.
wants, which is, to give them more evidence that, "Oh, look at Islam, the religion
Mm,
of peace. Look at how these people are behaving." They bait us
mm.
into it, and then we take the bait. Like, we just had Jake Lang go to Dearborn, and he got punched
Yeah,
in the face and ran off, and now all of the Islamophobes are posting
yeah.
that, "Look at how
Religion of
aggressive
peace.
and violent they are and blah, blah, blah. And they just make Jake Lang out to like he was just peacefully just standing there saying, "Praise Jesus, Jesus is king." Like that's all he was doing. He wasn't doing anything else. Like the most heinous, insulting things possible. But
Yeah.
the Muslims fell for the bait. That's what he wanted, and that's what he got. So it doesn't mean that we don't defend ourselves because Muslims do defend themselves, 100%.
Yeah, eye
I
for
see
an
it all
eye,
the time.
of course.
Muslim men in particular, if you don't have calluses on your hand and you're not in some kind of physical shape, you don't have some physical presence about you, and your wife or your daughter gets attacked, it's your fault. It's your fault.
Yeah, yeah.
Be a
And I
man.
think with
That's why
how things are in the West
sin.
at the moment, I think it's a great idea for any young ethnic minority in the West at the moment to make sure that they're on guard and ready to defend themselves because the hate is growing. And hopefully people like us doing good work on socials can try and douse the flames a little bit. I mean, we're only a few people against a whole machine that has trillions and trillions in their war chest to try and fight us. And like I said, there's not enough of them to fight us with arms, so they're doing it via media and socials and brainwashing and education and stuff. They're a lot
And
smarter
AI.
with their way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're using AI like, and that's why I said, like, I've been a Muslim for 25 years. I felt the hate and the blaming after 9/11,
yeah,
and
because
we
you must
got
have
through
reverted
that.
just after 9/11.
I had right before 9/11. So I made my
Good timing.
shahada about a month before 9/11, and then that happens. I was like, "Oh, this is perfect timing." Now everybody
Uh,
hates me and everybody's calling me the T word, but the thing is, though, even after that, after a couple of years, people came to their senses. They realized that, oh, okay, this isn't what Islam is. This isn't what Muslims practice. There were still racist people, but for the most part, it cooled down. But over the past, I would say, 2 years, you've seen this ramp up in social
mm,
media of anti-Islam. Like everybody and their mama's jumping on this anti-Islam because a lot of these content creators, they see it as a quick way to gain a following and make some money. And so they have ulterior motives for that. They don't even know anything about Islam. They just see like, people start saying anti-Islam stuff. Next thing you know, they got 50,000 followers and somebody's sending them a check. That's what they think's going to happen, but it's most likely not. So you have that, but then you have the AI aspect of it, of where they're just putting out full-blown Facebook accounts that are just ran by AI, and they don't make
mm,
videos or anything. They just make these AI-generated images of hate propaganda, and they're
yeah,
all over the place by the millions.
it's crazy.
So we have a heavy task. Like, it's never been more important than right now for
Mm,
all Muslims to speak beautifully as a Muslim and share the truth of Islam to counter it. Otherwise, we're gonna have some really bad times over the next few years.
well, hopefully not. Inshallah,
Yeah.
everyone will be good.
I
But
might have to move to
yeah,
Ajman with you just to stay
brother,
safe.
anytime, man, anytime, bro. The door's always open. If you and your family ever come here, bro, I'd love to meet you for some dinner.
Inshallah, inshallah. Well, brother, that's about a wrap for today. Thank you so much for being here, sharing your story. I absolutely love it. We'll do this again if you're up for it.
Yes,
And
yeah.
man, just keep banging away that good content and showing people the
Thank you,
reality of
brother.
what it's like to live in a Muslim world as a Western man.
Lovely. Thank you so much, bro.
Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair, everybody that's joined us today. Stay safe, stay free. Thanks for joining the Daily Rumble.